My name's Richie Chritopher. I work for Western Power and I'm based at the power station in the Isles of Scilly. St Mary's has had a power station for many years, but the off-islands of the Isles of Scilly used to have their own individual generators per property. And in 1985, the islands were cabled up via an 11,000 volt cable in between the islands, giving effectively mains power to the off-islanders. Further on from that, in 1989, all of the islands were connected to the national grid via a 38-mile long submarine cable running at 33,000 volts. Electricity gets to the Isles of Scilly very similar to it does on the mainland. Its source being the power stations where it goes via the national grid. So it comes into Cornwall at 275 kilovolts, where Western Power then take it over when it's transformed down to 132 kilovolts, kV. They're onward to bulk supply points, and the nearest bulk supply point to the Isles of Scilly is Hale, where it's transformed down to 33 kV into West Cornwall via an overhead network, then from Land's End to the Isles of Scilly via a submarine cable, into Porthcrusser at St Mary's, and then up to the power station where it's transformed down to 11 kV and distributed through the islands. If there's an interruption in supply to the islands from the grid, as it were, we can supply power to the islands via our 7 diesel generators that we've got on this site. It's quite simply a case of putting the generators on one at a time, synchronising them onto the buzz bars in the switchgear in this switch room. And as the more capacity we put on the bars, we can restore supplies to the customers. Our diesel generators on this site are driven by diesel engines, similar to what you've got in your car, but ours are obviously considerably bigger. The engine is connected via a shaft to a 3-phase alternator, where the alternator is a series of magnets on the rotor which rotate inside the stator, thus producing electricity at 415 volts. From the alternator it leaves via cables to a transformer where it's transformed to 11,000 volts, and from the transformer then comes into the switch room onto the buzz bar at 11,000 volts where we distribute it through the islands. The typical sort of electrical trend through the day starts off with a breakfast peak. Obviously everybody's getting up, having a cup of tea, so we experience a bit of a peak at breakfast time. And then as everybody arrives at work, the load sort of steadies off through the morning. We have a small lunchtime peak, which may increase a bit during the summer, during the holiday season. Goes off a bit during the afternoon. Then we have the traditional tea time peak when everybody leaves work, goes home, has a shower, has tea, whatever. Then it steadies off during the evening. And then we have a heating peak, which is quite new to us now on the islands with Economy 7, where we get a pretty big demand sort of from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning where the storage heaters are coming on. On E-Day, we can monitor real time at any precise minute of the day the intake to the islands. Our staff at the data centre in Bristol can look at our MMAC computer system, which allows us to do this. And so we can see precisely what the consumption is on the islands at any one time, at any time of the day. This information will then be sent on and go onto the E-Day website. People can save electricity by doing things like using low energy light bulbs, turning their TVs off instead of leaving them on standby. Insulation of properties can save electricity, and also things like solar power for heating their water can save a great deal of electricity in the long run.